The Other Side of Fear, a Backpacker's Memoir by Jenni. Unhidden Heroine Series, Book Number 1, Chapter 7, Sex, Drugs, and Fuck Your Rock and Roll. I don't think we have a strong case, Jenni, the district attorney confessed to me. The surveillance video was too far away to really see it enough to confirm that you were kidnapped. The forcible sodomy was your word against his, and since he didn't ejaculate inside of you, there isn't enough DNA from the rape kit to have a strong case. I just want to let you know that it is very possible that he will walk. I was at Randy's petting his 7 cats when I answered the call. Now Oscar would kill me for sure. How was this possible? Tears flooded down my face. Randy noticed and turned off the TV. What about the skin under my fingernails? What about my cervix being fucked up and the scratches and bruises all over me and the wire in his tires? I heard the DA sigh over the phone. Look, as a father myself, I can tell you I am outraged. I'm just telling you what I know. If he walks, you have the VPO filed against him. Let's still hope for the best. Oh yeah, the victim's protection order? Sure, like that would protect me. I hung up the phone and told Randy what I had learned. While I knew he would help me feel safe in every way he couldn't protect me from my nightmares. Nobody knew the fear flaring inside from me just walking around the corner. A VPO wouldn't save me from the possibilities that ran through my head each time I closed my eyes. And it wouldn't protect me from waking up every day with the rage and pain I carried from both my mother and my rapist. I hated being inside of me. Every time I slowed down, I could feel the acid eating its way through my body and coursing through my veins. The very next day, the DA called me again. I obviously expected to hear that Oscar had been released. The universe gave me a very surprising green light instead. The day before, right after our phone call, Oscar had called his lawyer requesting a meeting. He broke down and bawled in front of his attorney and said he'd had an attack of conscience and that he was guilty. He confessed to his crimes. They gave him 15 years with the possibility of getting out after 10 with parole. He was charged with kidnapping, forcible sodomy, and first-degree rape. He would be away in prison for at least 10 years. You are very lucky, the DA told me. Had Oscar known it wasn't a strong case, he wouldn't have pleaded guilty. God gave you a miracle, young lady. Yeah, thank God for his wondrous fucking miracles. Right after the conviction, I went to a campus psychologist since, as a UCO student, I got 2 sessions for free. I couldn't afford to pay anyone else, and I definitely did not have the fight in me to delve into the process of finding one. Doing seemingly simple tasks was impossible in my state of existing. I was only in this campus psychologist's office for about 10 minutes, gazing silently at all the books lining her office wall to wall. She wore a beige suit and beige high heels with old school pantyhose. Have you ever survived a rape or any kind of sexual trauma? I asked her. No, she responded reluctantly, caught off guard by my direct question. But I do have a PhD in psychology with a specialization in helping women who have been through sexual trauma. She could kick rocks out yonder with her fancy books and fan her face with her doctorate diploma for all I cared. Someone with only a degree could not help me. I knew I would never trust her. I can only imagine being able to connect with someone who had come out on the other side. I stuffed everything down deep, hoping maybe one day I would meet someone who could help me. I got up and walked out without saying another word and never looked back. I wouldn't seek help again until my self-destruction led me to a hellish rock bottom later. Even though I had enrolled in a couple of advanced Spanish classes for that semester, there was no way psychologically that I could handle going to classes. I didn't even have the mental fortitude to process where to go in order to withdraw from them. So I didn't. And that was the first semester that I flunked. A far cry from my usual 4.0 GPA. My dad came by a couple of times to take me to the store to buy groceries. I wasn't really sure what to talk about him with. I wasn't emotionally safe enough with him to tell him the truth about my condition, not when I was growing up, and not at this awful time, although I appreciated that he took me for groceries. My gratitude was cut short when he hit me with a long list of questions about why I failed my classes, reminded me that his paying my car insurance was contingent upon my being enrolled in a degree program and lectured me about how I needed to figure out where I was going with my life. He then reminded me that his offer for help still stood, which was that I could come stay at his spare bedroom so I could focus on classes and not work so much to pay rent, and reminded me that it was my choice if I wanted to take the hard route. Yes, Dad, everything's always been my fault. The last straw was when he told me that my mom had been trying to contact him about me because she wanted to see my new apartment, to share this difficult time with me, and that he did not want to be the middleman. I marveled at how it was possible that another human being could fail to understand me so completely, and him being my father. I added about 5 more reasons to my list of 1,000 to not allow him access to my life again. I wrote in silence, listening to his compassionless, empathy void, condition invoking offers, placing more stones in my internal wall which revoked entry for any more pain. Randy and I got so many apartments ready in the 2 months that we worked together that all except 2 were full. The owner decided that Randy could manage things on his own, but that I could keep helping as a part-time gig. I accepted the truth that it was time to find a full-time job. It was obvious to me that if I stopped moving, I would sink, and then Gracie and I would be homeless. I found a full-time job at a busy medical clinic in Edmond, working as a bilingual receptionist. Randy gave me a gift during our time spent together. He taught me how to run. I told him I had always hated running. I was a slow runner, and when we were obligated to run for a gym class in school, I was always the last one. It was miserable. He told me that he was also a slow runner and that it's okay to run at my own pace. And then he taught me a counting pattern he had learned in the military that would help me gauge the rhythm of my foot pattern as I ran. He even ran with me to help me find my pace. One day, I ran 1 whole mile, and eventually I was able to run 4 miles. And before too long, I was able to run 10 miles without stopping. This empowered me to keep surviving and keep pushing forward. Around the same time, I found an advertisement for a degree program at a local community college for interpreting and translating Spanish. I motivated myself to enroll in classes for the spring 2007 semester. I thought, as long as I could be where I spoke Spanish and engage with the local Latino community, I could connect to my heartbeat somewhere. If I could keep myself busy every waking hour of my day, I wouldn't have time to think about or feel anything inside. With the way federal-based student aid works, I was still considered a dependent on my mom's taxes. Since I had cut her out of my life due to her betrayal and we were no longer in contact, I couldn't use her information for my financial aid. I worked extra hours to save enough cash for my books and my tuition. It was just Gracie and me in this big, cold, cruel world which I had convinced myself was against me. I trust nobody, I thought. The people who should have cared about me and protected me the most in my life have hurt me the worst. A couple of months into my job, the fragments of my trauma were still festering inside of me and started to manifest as severe anxiety, PTSD, and depression. I didn't know at the time what PTSD was, but my understanding came later. Now that my rapist was behind bars, the misery of living the aftermath began. I had night terrors and would wake up in cold sweats, having panic attacks, and would hover over the sink breathing into a paper bag. With or without sleep aids, I could be awake for days, so I would nearly overdose on sleep aids, desperate to get some kind of rest. Both extremes drastically impacted my ability to function at work. Dealing with the short-term memory loss associated with my condition, it was nearly impossible to learn new tasks at work. My coworkers and patients took the brunt of my shortcomings. They explained things over and over, but nothing would stick in my mind. Something as simple as running to a convenience store for cigarettes and smelling someone who smelled like my rapist would send me into a blackout. I was terrified that my mom or her new boyfriend, my ex, would find out where I worked or walk through the front door. I never felt safe. I never felt safe leaving my apartment or driving to work. I couldn't go to the store or leave work or drive home. I never felt safe while awake or to go to sleep. When I was conscious, it wasn't safe, and it wasn't when I blacked out. I had nowhere to go. I wasn't safe anywhere on the outside of me, and it damn sure wasn't safe to be on the inside of me. I was at work one day making copies in the copy room, and out of nowhere, I had a rape flashback. I was in that field, and the air smelled like it did that day out in the vacant lot. I was on my back getting raped, and the smell of his sweat and sour alcohol breath were all over my face. I'm gonna fucking kill you. The words were ringing in my ears, harmonizing with the printer. Jenni. I suddenly came back to present reality. Where was I? I was in the copy room at work. Someone needed me. I had to do my job. Wait, what was my job? Jenni, the voice said again. I looked up at the door where a coworker was poking her head around the corner. We can't put our next patient back until we have these privacy forms. Any day would be great. Also, we have a Hispanic patient on hold waiting to talk to someone in Spanish. She's been on hold for a while. Oh shit. How could I speak Spanish to a patient right now? I picked up the stack of papers, which were finished printing. They were warm in my hands. I had just gotten raped all over again. My walls were closing in, my throat was closing up, everything was closing. I felt worms crawling through me, all over me, both inside and on the outside of me. Those fucking worms. I needed to get sick. I ran to the bathroom, choked on tears and vomited before convincing myself I could face the public. I wiped my face and then put on a smile because no one could know my secret. When I got to my desk, my cell phone was vibrating around in circles, indicating I was missing incessant phone calls. It was my mom. I hated her. Between the phone calls from my mother and the frequent flashbacks of my day in that hot summer field, it was too much at once. I blocked her. I stopped eating. I felt sick every day anyway, but also my eating felt like one thing I could control in a world of chaos. Every day I felt like I had acid inside of me, in my heart, my stomach, my head, even my blood. I hated sleeping because of the demons that waited for me there, but I hated being awake because my reality was a nightmare. I became accustomed to hunger pains for days and watched my body slowly melt away. Soon I found a release, where so many do, in bottles of booze I brought home after work. I had previously found a way to numb the pain inside. As a previous version of myself, I had never liked the taste or effect of alcohol, but now it seemed like the perfect time to try again. My initial experiments became a habit, and soon it was a ritual. Every night when I got home, I would light candles, swig cheap vodka from a plastic bottle on an empty stomach, and cut myself while listening to dark music. I imagined that from each new cut, I was bleeding from the inside out. Maybe if I cut myself enough, deep enough, eventually all my anger and pain would bleed its way out. I wore long sleeves under my scrubs at work to cover my wounds. I went to work hungover every day, but even I knew I could only maintain this behind-the-curtain reality for so long. My best friend Lisa found her way home to Oklahoma City from college without a place to land. She and I had met in high school years before, when she sat down next to me in home economics class and asked me to borrow a pencil. We were best friends from that point forward. She was staying on my couch, gathering the pieces of her life, devastated from her own traumas. It was overwhelming to share space with someone else in need, but it was also comfort that she was there. In some way, knowing that someone depended on me to stay alive kept me alive. We were the only family that we had, and as long as we stuck together, maybe we could make it out alive. I had tried to give her what I myself needed the most, a shield from the cruelty of life's blows. Stepping into the role of a caretaker was one that I knew very well, and it gave me something to grasp to avoid sinking deeper in a hole. It was Christmas break in 2006 when Lisa and I moved into a new place together. Since I had flunked my fall 2006 semester and found the new degree program at OSU-OKC, I planned to start classes there in January. Moving close to the new campus made sense, and we found a cheap apartment in the area with a horrible reputation. But it was all we could afford. It was a couple of blocks away from the part of Oklahoma City most known for drugs, parties, and strip clubs around every corner. One night, I met some guy online and had him over to the house so we could party. I didn't know at the beginning of the night that this was the day I would have my first experience using ecstasy. Once drinking had become my new normal, just drinking daily became not enough. I began to say yes to anything and everything. Ecstasy delivered me to a magical land with no anguish attached to it. My current reality and all the monsters in it ceased to exist. For $20, I grabbed enough ecstasy for my magic carpet ride to last all weekend long. Rolling on a fun Friday night turned into a weekend-long party, which evolved into the thought that I clung to for dear life just to get me through my weeks. Eventually, I was using it almost every day. I loved me when I was on ecstasy. When it hit my system, it was like putting on a new pair of glasses and looking at the world. These glasses fit perfectly, and I needed a pair that matched every outfit. Breaking in new accessories means wearing them as much as possible until they became a part of you, and that's what I did. I wore my new drug every minute that I could. I was losing a lot of weight. You might even say I was skinny. Spending hours looking in the mirror, I loved seeing my cheeks hollow, and I adored my new feminine slender shoulders. My shoulders looked like those of a slender, elegant lady in a diamond commercial with glowing skin draped only in an exquisite, slinky black dress. Those were the shoulders a dapper gentleman would drape his jacket around to protect his lady from the cold as he guided her around the dance floor of an opulent ballroom. When I was fucked up on ecstasy, I was the elegant and respectable woman who a prince would swoop in to save. Not the kind of loser who men rape and whose boyfriends fuck their mothers. When I was high, I would put on all my makeup and dress up, dreaming about how it would feel to live that elegant woman's life. What would it be like to wake up inside of her life? I pretended to be my favorite actress with millions of dollars, or that I was singing for an audience of 1 million people waiting on the edge of their seats for me to sing one last song. I was Adele. When I did ecstasy, I could teleport myself to any reality I wanted, live any life I wanted. At the time, I wanted to be anyone but me, which is why I hated coming down. The come down felt like moving from a mansion nestled in my favorite piece of paradise to a tiny trailer in a meth park crawling with roaches. Each one got worse, so bad that they left me in darker places than where I had started. Miraculously, I still made it to my classes, and I loved school. Translating difficult material and learning new things from my instructors tickled my soul's passion. During one of those classes, I met Dr. Durner. She was kind and passionate about imparting her knowledge as a translator. Her PhD was in linguistics, and she was a professional translator in 6 languages. In class, I daydreamed about Cozumel. I knew that my life purpose was to travel and love people from different cultures, but that radical adventure I had taken at 19 already seemed like a lifetime ago. It seemed impossible just to get out of bed now. Forget about finding the courage to go travel abroad again. That dream was a smoldering ember deep within me, but I wouldn't be able to blow life on it for a long time. Gracie at my side, and classes were the only thing keeping me alive. I always showed up to class, drunk, high on something, and so exhausted, but I always showed up.